are going into the stock pot so I can use them to make a dish later on. I'm going to remove the neck here with my chopper. I cut it through the skin and then, straight down through that. You could, of course, remove the skin if you want, but for me, I like all the duck fat to rise to the top of my stock. I skim it off and pop it in the fridge and use it for my other dishes. Now, the wings here, I just chop it below the knuckle, straight off like that. And then the other wing here, pull it out here like that, and you can see where this knuckle is. I go onto the duck side of the knuckle, straight through like that. Now, this is the bit I'm going to change my knife and just remove the legs. I just cut straight through the leg there like that, peel it back, until I've got my Maryland or drumstick. The thing is, just make sure you remove all these little bits of bone and any excess fat straight into the stock pot like that. Straight to the other side here, around there like that. Pull out that little drumstick there and pop it onto my board. Now the back part of it, this is what I do, bend it around like that and snap it straight off. And that way, all my bones fit into my stock pot. Now I want to remove the breast, but I want to keep the breast on the bone. If I take it off the bone, they'll shrivel up and shrink. So what I do is cut straight through the breastbone like that, and then straight down like that, through the spine. And then along these bones here like that, I remove these rib bones straight out. Now, of course, you could get your poultry guy to do this, or take it round to your local butcher. But with a sharp knife and a little bit of patience, you can do this at home. Take off the wishbone there, straight in you go. Now this is the bit, there's often a lot of fat on a duck, and you can just run your knife around the outside and remove that fat. Sometimes I'll render the duck fat down if I've got time, but for me, duck fat is the best. What I want to do is get some smaller pieces of duck that I'll fry beautifully in this dish. This is a dish where I season up the duck and then roast it till it becomes nice and crisp. To go with it, I've got a fantastic rice dish. Straight through the cartilage like that. See how easily these ducks come apart. It's almost like they're speaking to me. Now my duck Maryland like this, you can see that little part there. That's where the joint is. So if you're careful with your knife, you just run your knife straight through like that, and you go straight through those two bones. See that? I didn't have to cut through any bones. Got all my pieces there. Now this is the bit I'm going to season them up and give them some flavour. First I'll put on my fry pan and get that nice and hot. I'm going to put some salt on top. Look at that. Salt loves meat, meat loves salt, and duck is the perfect thing to go with my salt. Or the other way around, is it? I never know. On goes the pepper to spice it up nicely. Look at that. Now the flavours of Tunisia, paprika, some lovely hot paprika straight onto my duck, onto my board here like this, and some cumin and coriander that's been toasted and ground. Aromatic spices that bring this whole thing together. And a little bit of ground cardamom. Just sprinkle that on top. All these flavours are the flavours of North Africa. That's where my mother was born, in North Africa. Probably why I like these flavours so much. Now, into my pan, which is getting nice and hot now, I'll add just a little bit of olive oil. You won't need to add much because a lot of the fat will render out of the duck. And that's what I'm going to use to flavour this whole dish. Into my pan it goes. You can hear that sizzle. That's what you want to hear. With the back of the duck, wipe up some of these spices that are on the board there. Now what I do is I make sure I put the duck into the pan skin side down. And that way the fat renders into the pan and adds so much flavour. I find that if you put it the other way, it pulls back on the skin and you don't get that really crispy duck look. Wipe up all those spices that are on the board because we don't want to waste anything. You'll see that will start to render down and become nice and golden, and that'll give me time to get my rice ready. Salt on the underside of it, a little bit of pepper, ready to turn over. And you can see from the pan, all the fat, the duck fat and the oil's rendered down. It smells beautiful and the spices have made this quite aromatic already. You can see the spices have gone quite dark and that's a beautiful thing. Another minute or so on that side there and they'll be nice and brown, ready to go into my oven tray. Off they come, straight into my oven tray with a fork, and all we're going to do is give these a gentle roast. When we finish it off, we're going to add a little bit of sweetness to it. Look at that, perfect. Smells great. Now this is going into the oven at about 180 degrees Celsius for about 25 to 30 minutes, nice and low and slow, and let that duck cook all the way through till it's nice and tender. Now all the flavours in this pan are not going to be wasted. I've got got my onion here, and I'm going to make the rice dish. So what I'll do is I'll use all the flavours in the pan to help flavour the rice dish. My onion here, I'll slice nice and fine. And what I'll do is I'll layer everything up into that pan and then cook my rice dish in the oven in a pot. All the way through with this one here, nice and quick. You can of course have this done beforehand, but into the pot it goes. It's not too hot, I've got it on a nice low heat. I want to be able to sweat my onions down nice and evenly. I've got my garlic, give it a little crush like that, all the way through the middle here, couple of cloves, and give it a rough chop. I'll leave it quite coarse this time because I want the garlic to be sort of something you can bite on all the way through. Straight through the middle there like that and into my pan. You can smell the spices already in there, and you can smell a little bit of duck in the rice. Of course it's going to taste great. Now if I wanted to, I could use those duck bones to make the stock that would flavour my rice, but I've got some chicken stock that I made before. In there I'll put a little bit of the paprika, a little bit of the cumin and coriander, just a sprinkle, and a little bit of the cardamom there, just to give it a lovely flavour. Now while that's cooking, I've got some almonds I'm going to slip in there, and pine nuts, so they'll fry up with the onions and have a great colour and flavour. And when you're eating the rice, you've got a little bit of texture there as well. And of course something sweet, some raisins in there. A little bit of sweetness works with a dish like this. Give it a bit of a toss like that and put it on a medium heat and let that sweat down nice and evenly. Now I want a little bit of heat in there, so I'll get my favourite chilies here, sliced in half like this. Remove those seeds and move all those seeds aside. Once again, straight through the middle here like this, remove those seeds and move that aside. And I'll just cut these into nice big chunks here. So these will go through the rice and make it look nice and spicy. Give that a toss. That smells fantastic already. Just a pinch of salt in there, some pepper, and some saffron. We love a lot of saffron in there. Bay leaf, of course, goes in there as well. And this saffron here, a nice little pinch, pop it all the way in. Now to give it a bit more spice, I've got some ginger here. And what I'll do with this is just slice it into thin pieces like this. So when I'm eating my rice, I can actually come across these nice chunks of ginger through it. One little chop like that, all the way through, and this will give it plenty of flavour and texture, which is great in a rice dish like this. Often rice is just so simple, it's just boiled rice, but when you add flavour of the duck and all these spices together, it brings it together and makes it really tasty. Give that a bit of a stir like that. Another little toss. I reckon that's about ready. My pot's over here. I'm going to turn that on to a high heat. Now as you can see, all the flavour, all the bits and pieces that are left over in the pan have been soaked up by the rice. Into the pan it goes like that. And all I need to do is add my rice, of course. I want to sear my rice off. Takes about a minute or so. I just want to get some heat into it and coat it in all that flavour as well. A little pinch of salt in there and a twist of pepper. And rice soaks up every last little bit of flavour in there. I'll pour in some stock. 2 cups of rice to 2.5 cups of stock. And look at it, comes to the boil straight away. In it goes to my pot. Give that a bit of a stir around. Now that will come to the boil almost straight away. All I need to do is pop my lid straight on top there, and with my tea towel, I'm going to cook this in the oven for about 18 minutes. Then when it's cooked, I won't even lift the lid. I'll just sit it on the side of the oven there to let it finish cooking. This will be fantastic. A beautiful aromatic rice that will go so well with my duck. Here it goes. I'll eat a chook any day of the week, but every now and again, I eat a duck. It's the only bird where small breast and a lot of fat doesn't mean a visit to the plastic surgeon. Duck has double the amount of saturated fats. But unlike your dietitian, I think that's a good thing. Because, like I always say, fat equals flavour. So here's a few key tips for cooking duck. If you want to serve your duck rare, use the breasts. Crisp up the skin with lots of salt and pepper. Rest them and slice the meat thin. As for the legs, cook them low and slow, in duck fat if possible, and that's where they really shine. Oh, look at that. You can see all the juices from the duck there as well. None of that will go to waste, I can assure you. Onto my bowl there. Then I've just got my rice. Oh, you can see all the grains that come to the top, all the nuts, the pine nuts in there, the almonds, all the spices. Now to put this together, the way this is served, we'll just fluff up the rice a little bit and put some rice into the middle of the bowl here like this. Just a nice amount. Spread that around like that. Now with the duck, I've got to put some around on top of the rice here like this. All cut into perfect portion sizes. Nice little points all the way around there like that. Little drumstick in the middle here. And this is my little taster. Just over there like that. Now these juices lift up the side of the bowl here like this. Now of course one of the best things would be to get a big piece of bread and rub that around the inside of this tray here. Maybe I'll save that for later on. But all these duck juices go straight on the top here and it gives it a great glaze. Wipe off those drips. Now it's not finished, we need to finish this off. And I've got some fresh parsley here that I'll give a nice little rough chop straight on top there like that. Some coriander here, I'll give that a little bit of a rough chop as well. Beautiful fresh herbs, lots of great colour. Got some lime juice here, which I'll cut this in half and squeeze that on top just to give it some fresh zing. You could use lemons if you want. You could even put some preserved lemon on here. But I just love a fresh lime straight on top there. Gives the whole dish a great zing. Now, of course, some extra virgin olive oil, because I can do whatever I want down here. Look at that, fantastic. And this is something you can buy in most Middle Eastern stores. It's called pomegranate molasses. It's got a little bit of tartness to it, a little bit of sweetness to it, a little bit of a zing to it, but it's fantastic for a dish like this. And pour that over the top. Of course, if you had some balsamic syrup or something, it's sort of like it. It looks great. It's got a great glaze to it. Just the smell alone. Now, I've got my duck here, and I just want to show you how moist and juicy it is. Look at that. Beautiful. Cooked all the way through. A little bit of fat on there. Even the duck on its own, without the lime juice and the pomegranate molasses and the fresh herbs, is beautiful. It's moist, it's juicy, and it's really picked up the flavour of those spices.